So this latest idea came from a morning pages session where I was journaling, and have been going through some ups and downs in the mind recently, and I was just kind of making a connection between how life moves and throws unexpected things and the kind of movement of a boat. I don't know why this image just popped into my head where there was kind of like a Minecraft, low poly boat bobbing up and down on a sphere. Um, and, in the background, there was animations of weather changing over time and, yeah, just these different effects, kind of external forces happening to the boat. And although, this boat might move back or forward or towards things or away from things, it's essentially always in momentum. And I don't know why, that just was a feeling which gave me some sense of solace that no matter how things are going, you're always moving in some sort of direction. So I thought it would be pretty cool to take this idea and to make it into a 3D website that could illustrate these ideas. And, in one hand, showcase sort of the philosophical nature of life, and on another hand, play with some new creative tools in the web, some 3D rendering, some web shaders, and that kind of stuff. So I thought, cool, I've got this idea. Let me use Super Whisper, which I've been loving, to basically just get the idea down. Don't have to waste time, writing with my fingers. I can just talk it out. So I broke it up into concept and inspiration, boat appearance, movement, the sphere, the environment, the controls, and some procedural audio, which I thought would be quite cool. So this was kind of me just getting the ideas down. As you can see, it was a splurge. And then another unrelated event happened where I was reading some of, I think it's Andrei Burkov, I think that's how you say his name. And he was basically talking about how software engineering firms sort of will be using this kind of approach with AI, and large language models. And I really like this approach because essentially he was saying that first you write the full documentation. Then, based on that documentation, you can get the design principles, architecture patterns, etc. And then, from that kind of well thought out documentation, you can then create the project skeleton. And I really like this idea because I generally go straight into project skeleton and then arrive at documentation and kind of design principles as I'm working. So, yeah, I'm sure there's pros and cons of both directions. But, I just wanted to give this a go. So I popped that in there, wanted to focus on step one, and basically went back and forth with Grok. This was the first time using it. Really like it, by the way. And I sort of told it, these are some of the things I want to use. I don't know why I put PHP in there. That was definitely a mistake. And then, yeah, just sort of popped in a system prompt I've used previously to, make sure it's actually thinking about certain things and using certain frameworks and dependencies that I like. Popped in the, Super Whisper transcription, and then sort of went back and forth with it, just clarifying what my requirements were. So, it asked me some questions, I responded, and it then essentially outputted the first full documentation. So after going through that, I then just gave it my original notes again to ensure that it could cross check and make sure we haven't left anything out. It gave me another updated output, and I kind of felt like this was too short and it was too summarized. So I just asked it to basically make it more verbose, more granular, because I'm going to be using this as my source of truth throughout the project. So then it gave me a much more fleshed out document, especially kind of even bringing in the philosophical stuff, which is quite important to me. And yeah, so I was quite happy with that. And then I wanted to move on to step two, which was the design principles. So I popped on the deeper research. It took 5.5 minutes to complete, and did a lot of searching around how I might be able to come up with a set of design principles related to my documentation, and came up with some good stuff. I updated it to app router instead of pages router, had some architectural patterns. So yeah, I was just like, okay, cool. I'm sure I could dive into this and make it a lot better, but I'm just going to take it because I'm playing around and just having fun for now. And yeah, so essentially I ended up with a markdown file of the system requirements as well as the original documentation, just so that I could keep these as sources of truth. So pop those in my Cursor editor as well as the architecture and framework document. And then I thought, okay, well, I like this idea of system prompts and making sure that each time I fire off a request to an LLM, that it knows exactly what it's doing, because it's referencing the whole of human knowledge up to this point, or recorded human knowledge. So I want to like really focus it in on specific things as much as possible, since it's a generator. I need to make sure it's retrieving the correct stuff. So yeah, so after this I was just saying, like, in an ideal world where we weren't constrained by resources, how many people would work on this project and what would their roles and descriptions be. It gave me 15 different ones, physics simulation expert, audio engineer, so and so. And after that I said, okay, cool, based on the system prompt approach, here's an example. I want you to generate me a system prompt for each one of these roles. So I went ahead and grabbed all of those, and now I've got my team. So I've got my 3D artist, rendering lead, animation lead, audio engineer, and so on. And now I feel quite, ready to play, where I've have my documentation, architecture and framework, and different team members all set up. And now I'm going to go test this out and see how this project actually comes out. But yeah, I really like this approach of kind of planning a lot beforehand, because I usually just kind of jump straight into the task at hand, and then understand as I'm moving through the tasks, what I'm trying to solve. And if I ask a question that's too big to solve and I can see it's struggling, then I'll go more granular and just solve one thing at a time, and then build them back up to the bigger solution. But yeah, so this was a cool approach. I was thinking of maybe even systemizing it so that, if you're working with clients or people in general, you can just get them to give you their ideas. You come up with documentation, architecture, and framework, sign off on that, and then create a team of different, roles that you would work with to achieve this. Yeah, obviously, this is just testing the limits of what LLMs can do currently, and yeah, it's quite fun.